The first bullet snapped past her ear before she even realized she'd broken cover. Private First Class Jenna Cole's boots slammed into the dusty concrete, heart hammering. The SEALs had shouted, "Weapons down, wait it out, don't move." But she wasn't listening anymore. Not after what she'd seen. Ahead, 50 meters across a ruined Afghan courtyard, her platoon sergeant lay sprawled. The man wasn't moving, blood darkening his sleeve, his M4 half buried under rubble. Enemy muzzle flashes blinked from the shattered windows above like fireflies, but these weren't fireflies. These were rifles trained on anyone dumb enough to run across open ground. Which was exactly what she was doing. She felt the snap and whistle of lead, felt it in her teeth like cold lightning. Her lungs burned as she dove behind a half-collapsed wall. The slap of another round on stone sent chips across her cheek. The SEAL team leader cursed behind her, his voice cutting across the chaos. "God damn it, Cole. Hold position." But she was already leaning out, firing short bursts at the windows, praying the sergeant wasn't gone already. 1 hour earlier. They had gone into Ghazni at dawn, shadows stretching long over the city's broken streets. Cole had expected another textbook patrol. Watch the alleys, check the rooftops, nod at the kids who pointed fake guns from behind burned-out cars. Same old. She was Army, attached to a SEAL detachment that didn't trust her, didn't want her, but had been ordered to take her anyway. Observation and support role, her CO had said. Translation, stay out of their way. The team leader, Lieutenant Ray Maddox, had made it clear on the bird ride in. You keep your rifle down until I say otherwise. You move when we move. You breathe when I say breathe. Got it? Cole had smirked. Yes, sir. Permission to blink independently, or do I need to clear that too? Even the other SEALs had cracked grins at that. Maddox hadn't. He just stared at her with ice-colored eyes until the humor shriveled. So she'd shut her mouth and done the job. Quiet, alert. Rifle at low ready, eyes scanning the maze of alleys while the SEALs moved like shadows. It was supposed to be a routine sweep, secure a block of crumbling apartments rumored to house a bomb maker. Intel said he was low-level, expendable. What they didn't say was that half the block had been prepped as a kill box. The first IED had chewed apart the Humvee at the corner. A rolling fireball. Metal shriek. Shouts. Cole had thrown herself down hard as shrapnel cut the air. By the time she looked up, the ambush was already singing. Present. Now, pinned behind the wall, Cole tasted copper in her mouth. Fear and fury. She could hear Maddox barking orders, could hear the rattle of suppressed fire from his SEALs trying to suppress the shooters above. They were good? No, they were flawless. Crisp bursts, controlled movements, no wasted energy. Compared to them, Cole felt like a rookie clumsy kid with too much adrenaline. But then she thought of Sergeant Dwyer lying in that courtyard. He had been the one who told her back in Kandahar that being support didn't mean being invisible. Every rifle counts, Cole. Don't let them make you forget that. She couldn't forget. Bullets slammed the wall again, showering her in dust. She peeked, fired, ducked. No clean shot, but she saw movement, one of the shooters leaning too far out. She squeezed. The man jerked back. A scream echoed. One less rifle. Cole. Maddox's voice ripped across the gunfire. You're out of position. Fall back to us. Can't, she shouted back. Dwyer's hit. Negative. Leave him. The word stabbed deeper than any bullet. Leave him? That wasn't how she was wired. She checked her mag, half left. She took a breath, then another. Then she broke cover again. Flashback, Kansas. Before she had ever worn the uniform, Jenna Cole had been the kid who refused to walk away. From fights, from friends in trouble, from her little brother when the foster families got too rough. You're reckless, her high school counselor had told her. You charge in without thinking. Somebody's gotta, she'd said. The Army recruiter had loved that answer. The courtyard. Her boots hit dirt again as she sprinted the last 20 meters. Every step felt like it could be the one that tore her apart. But she kept moving, eyes locked on Dwyer. Cole, damn it. Maddox's voice again, furious now. But his fire team had shifted their angle, covering her run whether he admitted it or not. She slid the last stretch, dropping beside Dwyer. He was pale but breathing. A round had punched through his shoulder, blood soaking his vest. His eyes cracked open, dazed. Kid, what the hell are you doing here? Saving your ass, she snapped, already yanking her med kit free. Rounds chewed the ground inches away. Cole swore, slapped a pressure bandage onto the wound, tightened until Dwyer groaned. Above them, one SEAL vaulted onto a balcony, clearing a shooter with brutal precision. The rest laid down suppressive fire, carving through the ambush. Maddox was everywhere at once, barking commands, cutting down targets. Cole knew she should have left it to them. Knew she had broken discipline. But with Dwyer's blood on her gloves, she also knew she'd make the same call again. Aftermath of fire. 10 minutes later, the courtyard was silent except for Dwyer's ragged breaths. The enemy had melted into the city, leaving bodies and smoke. Maddox stalked over, weapon low, eyes blazing. "You just endangered the entire op," he growled. Cole met his stare, refusing to flinch. "And I just kept him alive." "You disobeyed a direct order." She shrugged, though her hand still shook. "Guess I'll take my chances with the paperwork." One of the younger SEALs chuckled. "Gotta admit, sir, she's got balls." "Shut it, Torres," Maddox snapped, though his gaze flicked back to Cole with something harder to read now. Not just anger. Calculation. Campfire humor. Hours later, back at the forward outpost, the adrenaline bled off into bone-deep exhaustion. Dwyer was stable, patched up and joking weakly from a cot. The SEALs sat cleaning rifles, trading dark humor. "Cole runs like a damn gazelle," Torres said, grinning. "Bullets whizzing past and she's just—" He mimed a cartoon sprint. "More like a panicked ostrich," another muttered. Even Dwyer laughed, though it made him wince. Cole rolled her eyes, trying not to smile. Maddox said nothing, just stripped and oiled his weapon with sharp, deliberate motions. But now and then Cole caught him glancing her way. Not with approval, but not with the pure disdain from before either. Something had shifted. The decision. That night, Maddox pulled her aside. The outpost generator hummed in the dark, throwing pale light across his face. "You think you did the right thing today?" he asked flatly. "I know I did." "You think this is about being a hero? Charging in, ignoring orders?" "It's about not leaving people behind." He leaned close, voice low and hard. "This isn't the army. We don't get to play cowboy. Out here, one reckless move can sink the whole team. You pulled it off today, but next time? You'll get him killed. You'll get me killed. You'll get all of us killed." Cole swallowed. For the first time, doubt clawed at her. But she forced herself to meet his eyes. "And if I'd listened to you, he'd be dead already." Maddox stared, then exhaled sharp through his nose. He stepped back, shaking his head. "You're not like the others," he muttered. "Maybe that's your strength. Or maybe it's the bullet with your name on it. Time will tell." Then he walked away, leaving her standing in the glow of the humming light, heart pounding. The mystery. Cole lay awake long after, staring at the outpost ceiling. Every sound of the night pressed heavy, the distant pop of gunfire, the soft wheeze of Dwyer's sleep. She replayed the courtyard in her head again and again. The bullets. The run. Maddox's fury. Had she done the right thing? She thought so. She hoped so. But beneath that, something else gnawed at her. Why had the ambush been so perfectly staged? Why had the shooters seemed ready for them, positioned on every angle? And why, just before she ran for Dwyer, had she seen one man on the balcony not firing? Just watching. Smiling. She hadn't told Maddox about that. She wasn't even sure why. But as sleep finally dragged her under, she knew one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The knock came at midnight. Cole jerked awake, hand instinctively groping for the M4 beside her cot. The outpost was quiet except for the hum of the generator and the distant croak of desert insects. She blinked, heart thudding. "It's Maddox," came the whisper from the other side of the plywood door. She hesitated, then swung her legs down and opened it. The lieutenant stood in shadow, face grim, eyes sharp. He carried no rifle, only a sidearm holstered at his thigh. "Gear up," he said softly. "We're moving." Cole frowned. "Moving where?" "We just came back. Half the guys are still cleaning blood off their kits." "Need to know. You're coming." Something in his tone made her swallow the retort. She grabbed her vest, helmet, rifle. Dwyer stirred on his cot as she passed. "Where to, kid?" he rasped. "Babysitting duty probably," she muttered. But her gut told her this was something else. Something Maddox didn't trust the others with. The briefing. They met in the comms tent. Maddox, Torres, 2 other SEALs and Cole. The glow of a single laptop lit the maps spread across the table. Maddox tapped a spot on the screen. "Intel confirms movement from the target building. One of the tangos slipped the net during the ambush. Hire wants him tracked." Cole leaned in. The grainy satellite shot showed rooftops and alleys. A figure circled in red. "That's him," Maddox said. "The bomb maker." Cole's stomach dropped. The man she'd seen, the one who hadn't fired, who had just smiled down at her in the chaos. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered. "What?" Maddox's eyes snapped to her. She hesitated. She hadn't told him earlier, hadn't told anyone. But lying now was pointless. During the fight, I saw him. Balcony on the east side. He wasn't shooting. He was watching. Like he knew what was coming. Torres frowned. You sure it was him? Yeah, Cole said firmly. I'll never forget that face. Maddox studied her a moment, then nodded once. All the more reason. We move in 1 hour. Target extraction alive if possible. Dead if not. The march. The desert night swallowed them whole. They moved in a staggered column, rifles low, boots crunching softly on gravel. Cole kept pace, every nerve alive. The sky above was velvet black, stars like frozen shrapnel. In the silence, she could almost hear her own heartbeat. She thought of the smile again, that calm, knowing look from the man on the balcony. It hadn't been arrogance. It had been something colder. As if he knew she'd break cover. As if the entire ambush had been designed around her choice. She shook it off. Paranoia. Fatigue. Maddox had said it, this wasn't about playing cowboy. She needed to stay sharp, disciplined. Eyes open, Maddox murmured. Target building 200 meters. Contact. The building rose out of the rubble like a black tooth, jagged against the stars. Windows empty. Doors hanging. Silent. Cole's stomach twisted. It was too quiet. The SEALs moved like phantoms, stacking at the entrance. Torres tapped her shoulder, motioning her into position. She breathed slow, weapon ready. Maddox gave the hand signal. Go. The door splintered. Flashbang. Thunder. They poured inside. Dust swirled. Concrete halls. Trash underfoot. Cole swept left, covering Maddox's six. Every corner reeked of stale smoke and sweat. Clear, Torres whispered from the far room. Clear, echoed another. Then, thump. Upstairs. A single heavy footstep. Maddox signaled upward. Cole's pulse spiked. They climbed. The smile again. Second floor. A long corridor. At the end stood a figure, silhouetted in moonlight streaming through a broken window. The same face. The bomb maker. And he was smiling again. Cole froze, rifle locked. Hands where I can see them, she barked. He didn't move. Didn't even flinch. His lips curled, eyes glinting. Hands, she shouted again. Maddox's hand pressed her shoulder, steady. His voice low, alive if possible. The man raised his hands slowly. But Cole's gut screamed. Something was wrong. Vest, Torres muttered. Check his vest. The man stepped forward into the light. No explosives. No rifle. Just a battered tunic, dust-stained. But the smile never left. The trap. Maddox motioned. Torres, zip him. Torres moved fast, zip ties ready. Cole covered, eyes locked. The man didn't resist, only tilted his head slightly as if listening to something far away. Then Cole heard it too. Click. The floor beneath them groaned. Her eyes darted down. Wires ran along the cracked tiles. Pressure plates. Move, she screamed. Too late. The explosion tore through the building, heat and sound smashing them into the air. Cole hit the wall, ears ringing, lungs burning. Dust filled her mouth. She coughed, scrambled, weapon lost in the haze. Voices. Shouts. Gunfire outside. They weren't alone. Firefight in the ruins. The ambush had sprung again, perfectly timed. Fighters poured into the building from the rear, AKs chattering. Cole staggered to her feet, snatched up her rifle, fired blind into the shadows. A man dropped. Another. Her training kicked in, muscle memory overriding fear. Maddox, she yelled. I'm good. His voice through the dust. Torres is hit. She saw Torres on the ground, leg bleeding, Maddox dragging him back. The bomb maker was gone, slipped away in the chaos. Son of a bitch. Cole snarled, spraying cover fire as Maddox hauled Torres into a side room. The other SEALs regrouped, laying down controlled bursts. But the fighters kept coming. Dozens of them. This wasn't random. This was orchestrated. The rooftop escape. Stairs. Maddox shouted. To the roof. Move. They bounded upward, bullets sparking the walls. Cole shoved Torres up ahead of her, gritting teeth as the man groaned. Her lungs burned, ears still half deaf. They burst onto the roof. Cool night air. More gunfire below. Extraction. Maddox barked into his comms. Immediate exfil, hot zone. Cole crouched, firing at the figures swarming in the alleys. But her eyes kept scanning, searching. And then she saw him. The bomb maker. Across the street, standing calmly on another rooftop. Smiling down at her. Her finger froze on the trigger. Maddox, she shouted, pointing. Maddox Spun saw him too. Raised his rifle. Fired. The man stepped back into the shadows and vanished. Extraction. The hello thundered in minutes later, rotors whipping sand into the night. The SEALs loaded Torres aboard, then covered Cole as she scrambled up the rope ladder. Bullets chased them into the sky. Tracers clawed at the dark. Then the city dropped away, burning and howling below. Cole collapsed onto the floor, chest heaving, sweat and dust streaking her face. Torres groaned beside her, pale but alive. Maddox sat across, jaw clenched, eyes unreadable. No one spoke for a long time. Debrief. Back at base the mood was black. The mission had been blown. Target escaped. Torres wounded. Intel compromised. The CO grilled them for hours, voice sharp with disbelief. You're telling me he knew you were coming? He set the building as a trap. Yes, sir, Maddox said flatly. Cole wanted to speak, wanted to shout that she'd seen the smile, that he had been playing them from the start. But she stayed quiet, jaw tight. When it was over, Maddox caught her outside the tent. His eyes burned with something between anger and curiosity. You saw him again, didn't you? She nodded. And he let us walk right into it. Maddox exhaled long and hard. Then this isn't just another bomb maker. This is personal. Humor in the dark. Later that night, Torres lay in the infirmary, leg wrapped tight. He grinned weakly at Cole as she came by. Guess I owe you one. Nice cover fire back there. She smirked. You owe me a beer. A cold one. Stateside. Deal, Torres said, then winced. Assuming we make it out of here. Cole chuckled, but it felt hollow. The image of that smile wouldn't leave her. It wasn't arrogance. It was control. He knew every move they'd make. And that scared her more than the bullets. The mystery deepens. 2 nights later she was called to Maddox's quarters. He sat at a desk, papers spread, maps marked. Sit, he said. She did. I pulled files on our guy, Maddox continued. Name's Kareem Javed. Not just a bomb maker. He's ex-Pakistani ISI. Trained, disciplined, and connected. He's been running circles around coalition forces for 3 years. The ambushes, the traps, that's his signature. Cole's chest tightened. So he knew we were coming because? Maddox's eyes met hers. Because someone on the inside tipped him off. Silence. Cole felt her stomach sink. You mean a leak? Here? Maddox nodded slowly. I don't trust half the people in this camp. Maybe more. But I saw how he looked at you. Like you were already part of his game. Cole swallowed hard. So what now? Maddox leaned forward, voice like steel. Now we hunt him. But we do it my way. No cowboy moves. No reckless runs. You step out of line again, Cole, I'll have you shipped back to Kandahar on the next bird. Understood. She met his stare, heart racing. Understood. But deep down she knew she couldn't sit still. Not with Kareem Javed out there. Not with that smile burned into her memory. Cliffhanger. That night, unable to sleep, Cole sat outside the barracks, rifle across her knees. The desert stretched silent under the stars. Footsteps approached. She turned, expecting Maddox or Torres. Instead, a folded scrap of paper landed at her boots. She looked up. No one there. Just shadows. Heart pounding, she unfolded it. One line, scrawled in neat script. Next time you won't see me coming. Her blood ran cold. The note wouldn't stop shaking in her hands. Next time you won't see me coming. Cole read it again under the moonlight outside the barracks, then again as if the words might change if she glared long enough. They didn't. The letters were sharp, deliberate, taunting. Whoever had left it wanted her rattled. It was working. She spun, scanning the shadows. Nothing. Just desert silence and the faint hum of the outpost generator. Whoever dropped the note was gone. She folded it, slipped it into her vest pocket. She should have reported it immediately. That's what protocol demanded. But something inside resisted. Because if Kareem Javed was taunting her directly, then he wasn't just another target. He was playing her. And if she brought this to Maddox now, the lieutenant would ground her on the spot. Cole wasn't about to let that happen. Morning briefing. The next day, Maddox stood at the head of the briefing room, jaw tight, eyes harder than steel. Javed is mobile, he said, stabbing a finger against the map. Intel from drone flyovers puts him here, an abandoned textile mill on the outskirts of Ghazni. 2 clicks from the river. Likely fortified. We move tonight. The SEALs nodded grimly. Torres sat propped in a chair, leg braced, refusing to be left out of the discussion even though he couldn't deploy. He caught Cole's eye, gave her a faint thumbs up. She forced a smile back. Maddox's gaze swept the room. Rules don't change. We go in silent. We go in disciplined. No one breaks from formation. That son of a bitch made fools of us once. Not again. Cole's hand tightened on her notebook. The folded scrap of paper pressed against her ribs like a secret brand. When Maddox's eyes landed on her, he lingered a moment longer. She held his stare, keeping her face neutral. He didn't ask. She didn't tell. Preparations. Gear up always had its rhythm. Check magazines, check optics, check comms. The smell of CLP oil, the snap of Velcro, the soft click of chambers being racked. For the SEALs, it was muscle memory like a pre-battle prayer. For Cole, it was nerves masked by ritual. She double-checked her tourniquets, triple-checked her spare mags. She slid the note out of her vest, read it one last time, then tucked it deep in her pocket. Next time you won't see me coming. She muttered under her breath. We'll see about that. The infiltration. Night swallowed them again. The textile mill loomed like a carcass against the stars, its broken windows glowing faint orange from fires inside. The air carried the acrid tang of burnt chemicals. Maddox signaled halt. They crouched in the scrub outside the perimeter fence, eyes scanning. Movement flickered in the windows, armed sentries, careless silhouettes. Cole, Torres's role falls to you tonight, Maddox whispered. Rear cover, comm relay. Stay on my orders. Clear? She nodded, pulse quickening. Clear. They slipped through a gap in the fence, boots silent on gravel. Shadows swallowed them whole. First blood. The first guard never even had time to scream. Maddox's knife slid quick and clean, body lowered gently into the dirt. The SEALs moved like liquid, precise and merciless. Cole followed, rifle raised, nerves taut. They breached the mill through a collapsed loading bay. Inside, rusted machinery towered like skeletons. The smell of oil and rot hung heavy. Voices echoed from deeper inside, men laughing, clinking bottles. Unaware. Maddox gestured. Split. 2 teams. Cole stuck with him, heart hammering. They ghosted through the machinery, every step deliberate. Cole's breath fogged in her NVGs. Then, motion. A sentry turning the corner. His eyes widened. His mouth opened. Cole's rifle cracked once, twice. He dropped, throat punched out. Her hands shook as she lowered her weapon. First kill at point blank. She swallowed hard, forced herself to keep moving. Maddox gave her a curt nod. Approval or maybe just acknowledgement. Either way she clung to it. The chamber. They found them in the central hall, at least 15 fighters clustered around crates of explosives, rifles leaning nearby. And at the far end, standing on a rusted catwalk, Kareem Javed. Come. Smiling. Cole's blood turned to ice. He raised a hand and his men froze. He called something in Pashto, too fast for her to catch. Then he looked directly at her through the shadows. Directly at her. The SEALs waited for Maddox's signal. Rifles trained, breaths held. But Javed didn't flinch. He spread his arms as if to welcome them. And that smile never faltered. Yes. The explosion came from behind. The wall blew inward, dust and fire swallowing half the hall. Fighters poured through the breach, shouting, AKs roaring. The SEALs opened fire instantly, precision cutting men down. Cole dropped behind a crate, firing controlled bursts. The air turned to thunder and smoke. Contact rear. Hold the line. Maddox barked. But Cole's eyes locked upward. Javed was gone. Vanished into the catwalk shadows. She swore, emptied her mag into the fighters pressing from the breach, slammed in another. Her mind screamed at her to chase, to break formation, to hunt him down. But Maddox's voice cut through. Cole. Stay on me. For the first time she hesitated. Discipline or instinct? Obey or chase? The split-second decision. Torres's words echoed in her head. Guess I owe you one. Dwyer's voice from Kandahar. Every rifle counts. And Javed's note. Next time you won't see me coming. Her body moved before her mind could catch up. She broke from cover, darting up the catwalk stairs. Cole. Get your ass back here. Maddox roared behind her. She didn't stop. The stairwell shook with gunfire as she climbed, shadows darting above. She burst onto the catwalk, lungs burning, rifle raised. Empty. Then a whisper from the dark. You came. Her blood froze. The catwalk. Javed stepped from the shadows, unarmed, calm as ever. His eyes gleamed under the faint firelight. You're predictable, he said in accented English. Just like I knew you'd be. Cole's rifle trained on his chest, finger tight on the trigger. Hands where I can see them. He smiled. That damn smile. If you shoot me now the building burns. Everyone dies. Her eyes flicked around. Wires. Charges. Dozens of them rigged to the beams. Her heart hammered. You're bluffing. Am I? He tilted his head. Or are you gambling with your friends' lives? Below, the firefight raged, shouts, gunfire, explosions. She was alone up here, cut off. Her finger trembled on the trigger. The choice. Javed stepped closer, hands still empty. You run into fire. You risk everything for one man. Admirable. Foolish. That is why you'll lose. You can't let go. Shut up, she snapped. You are a soldier who fights with her heart, not her head, he said softly. And hearts are easy to break. For a moment, she wanted nothing more than to put a round through his skull. And it stopped the smile. But the charges, the seals below. Maddox. Her breath shook. Then, in one swift motion, Javed stepped backward into the shadows, and was gone. A hatch clanged shut. She lunged forward, yanked it open. Empty. Already gone. Below, Maddox's voice roared. Cole. Now. Escape. She tore back down the stairs, lungs on fire, ears ringing. The seals were falling back, laying down cover fire as the fighters swarmed. Maddox grabbed her arm the second she hit the floor. What the hell did you think you were doing? No time, she gasped. The place is rigged. His eyes widened. He shouted into comms. All units exfil. Buildings wired. Go, go, go. They crashed through the loading bay as the charges went. The textile mill erupted in fire, steel and concrete collapsing in a deafening roar. Heat blasted their backs as they dove into the dirt outside. The fighters inside screamed, cut off as the building swallowed them whole. The seals staggered to their feet, coughing, bruised, alive. Javed was nowhere. Aftermath. Hours later, back at the outpost, Maddox tore into her. You disobeyed again, he growled, fists clenched. You nearly got us all killed. Cole shot back. If I hadn't seen the charges, we'd all be dead right now. You think running off half-cocked saved us? You handed Javed exactly what he wanted, chaos. He slipped away while you chased a ghost. Her throat tightened. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream that she had been this close. But the truth stung. He was right. Javed had toyed with her. Again. The mystery grows. Later, alone, Cole pulled the note from her pocket. She read it one last time, then burned it over a candle flame, watching the paper curl and blacken. But the words were seared into her mind. Next time you won't see me coming. And now she knew he was right. Because she couldn't see him at all. Cliffhanger. 3 days later, the outpost was rocked awake by sirens. Cole stumbled from her bunk, rifle in hand. Maddox was already in the courtyard, barking orders. A convoy truck at the gate was burning, black smoke rising. And spray painted across its side in neat red letters. Cole. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't war anymore. This was personal. The red spray paint dripped like blood down the side of the burning convoy truck. Cole. The flames licked higher, black smoke curling into the morning sky. Sirens wailed across the outpost, boots pounded gravel, men shouted orders. And in the center of it all stood Jenna Cole, rifle gripped tight, eyes locked on her name scrawled across the metal. Her throat felt dry as sand. Javed wasn't just taunting her anymore. He was inside their perimeter. Maddox strode through the chaos, barking commands. Fire crews doused the blaze. Medics rushed to the wounded driver who'd been pulled from the cab half-charred but alive. Maddox's face was stone, but his eyes burned when they found her. Inside. Now. Cole followed him into the command tent. The flap closed behind them, muting the chaos outside. Maddox spun on her, fury barely leashed. You want to tell me how your name got spray painted on one of our trucks? Cole clenched her jaw. You think I did this? I think Javed is 3 steps ahead of us, and every damn time he shows his hand, you're at the center of it. Her stomach twisted. He's targeting me. Not the team. Me. Why? I don't know, she snapped, louder than she meant to. Then softer, but he's making it personal. Maddox stared, searching her face. Finally he exhaled, long and sharp. If it's personal, then it's leverage. He wants you unstable. Off balance. You let him succeed, we're all screwed. Cole nodded stiffly. But deep down, a seed of dread rooted. Maddox was wrong. Javed didn't just want leverage. He wanted her to break. And she was afraid it might be working. The digital trail. Hours later, the intel team called them in. A young analyst, eyes bleary from too much caffeine, pointed to a monitor filled with scrolling code. We picked up a burst transmission from inside the perimeter, he said. Encrypted, but we cracked part of it. Coordinates. Time stamps. Maddox leaned over. From where? The analyst hesitated. That's the problem. The origin point is here. Inside this camp. Silence fell heavy. Cole felt her stomach sink. You're saying someone's feeding him intel? The analyst nodded grimly. He's got a man on the inside. Maddox's fists clenched. Find out who. Cole's mind spun. Javed wasn't just outside the wire. He was woven into their systems, their routines. He could see them, hear them, maybe even predict them. And he had chosen her name to carve into the truck. Why her? The SEAL's doubt. That night, sitting with the SEALs in the wrecked tent, Cole felt the shift. Torres cracked a joke, the others laughed, but the glances they threw her way were different now, hesitant, suspicious. One finally said it. You sure you're not feeding this guy intel without knowing it? Like, maybe you've been compromised? Cole bristled. I'm not a damn mole. Then why's your name on his calling card? Another shot back. Torres raised a hand. Ease up. If Javed's targeting her, it means she's under the gun same as us. Maybe more. The tension eased, but only slightly. Cole felt it in her gut. The invisible wedge Javed was driving between her and the team. Maddox didn't speak up in her defense. He just sat in the corner, jaw tight, eyes on his beer. Midnight intrusion. Cole woke to the sound of static. Her radio, sitting on the crate beside her cot, crackled softly. She frowned, leaned over, turned the volume. Through the hiss came a voice. Oh, come. Hello, Jenna. Her blood froze. She grabbed the handset. Who is this? A soft chuckle. You already know. Her skin crawled. How are you on this channel? I am everywhere you are. In your wires, in your walls. You belong to me now. Her hand trembled on the radio. She forced steel into her voice. If you think you can scare me? I don't need to scare you, Javed interrupted. I only need to show you what you fear most. The line went dead. She sat frozen, radio clutched white-knuckled. The generator hummed outside. Distant footsteps passed. Normal sounds, but she felt watched. Exposed. The lead. The next morning, the analyst rushed into the command tent. We've got a hit, signal trace off last night's breach. It bounced through half a dozen relays, but the origin narrows down to an old Soviet bunker in the hills east of here. Maddox snapped into action. Gear up. We move in 30. Cole's stomach tightened. A bunker. Perfect ground for another trap. But if Javed was really there, this could be the break they needed. Into the hills. The hills were jagged rock and thorn scrub, silent under a blistering sun. The bunker crouched in the side of a ridge, half-buried, concrete cracked by decades of neglect. The SEALs stacked at the entrance, rifles tight. Maddox gave the signal. Breach. The door groaned, metal shrieking. Darkness yawned inside. They entered. The bunker. The air was damp, stinking of mold and rust. Narrow corridors snaked through the concrete, lit by faint bulbs strung on wires. They cleared room by room. Empty bunks. Rusted lockers. Signs of recent habitation. Burnt-out cooking stoves, half-eaten rations. But no men. No Javed. Cole's nerves screamed. Too clean. Too obvious. In the central chamber they found it. A wall of monitors, wires snaking like veins, hard drives humming. And on every screen, images of them. Cole staggered closer. Video feeds from drones, helmet cams, base security. One screen froze on her face in the courtyard during the ambush. Another showed her sprinting for Dwyer. Another, her standing outside the burning convoy truck, staring at her name. Her stomach dropped. He'd been watching all along. Maddox's jaw tightened. Pull the drives. Now. The SEALs moved, yanking cables, bagging hardware. Cole stood frozen, heart pounding. On one monitor, static flickered. Then Javed's face appeared. Smiling. Hello again, Jenna. Her breath caught. You came running. As I knew you would. Maddox raised his rifle and fired. The screen shattered. But Cole still heard the echo of his laugh in her head. The trap again. They were halfway out when the charges blew. The floor bucked, concrete raining from the ceiling. The corridor filled with dust and fire. Fighters surged from hidden passages, AKs blazing. Cole dove behind a broken wall, firing back. The air was thunder, her ears ringing. Maddox's voice cut through. Fall back. Now. They fought their way to the surface, bullets sparking off stone. Two SEALs dragged one of their own, bleeding from a chest wound. Cole laid down cover fire, rage boiling. Javed had been here. Had watched them. Had waited. And once again he slipped away. The rift. Back at base the mood was poisoned. The SEAL who'd been shot was stable, but barely. Maddox was a storm contained by sheer force of will. He cornered Cole outside the barracks. You're letting him inside your head. Every decision you make he's counting on. He's pulling your strings like a puppet. Cole snapped, then cut the damn strings, Maddox. Because if we keep playing defense he's going to bleed us dry. Defense keeps my men alive, Maddox growled. Your hero bullshit doesn't. They stood chest to chest, anger sparking. For a moment, Cole thought he might actually hit her. Instead he stepped back, voice low. One more reckless move, Cole. Just one. And you're done. She swallowed hard. But inside a storm raged. Because she knew she would break orders again. If it meant catching Javed she'd do it. Humor amid the tension. Later Torres limped over, leaning on a crutch. Heard you got Maddox to pop a vein again. Cole managed a weak grin. Think I'm racking up points toward a court-martial. Torres chuckled. Nah. He yells because he cares. Or because you piss him off. Maybe both. His grin softened. Don't let Javed own your head, Cole. Guy wants you rattled. Don't give him the satisfaction. She nodded. But the truth was she already felt like Javed was living rent-free in her skull. The night vision visitor. 2 nights later, Cole pulled late watch at the perimeter. The desert stretched silent, NVGs painting the world green. Movement flickered on the ridge. She froze, scope tightening. A figure stood silhouetted against the moon. Her chest clenched. Even at this distance she knew the posture. The tilt of the head. Javed. He lifted one hand in a mock salute. Then vanished over the ridge. Cole's heart hammered. She raised her radio. Maddox, I've got visual. Static. She yanked the headset. Dead. Her stomach turned cold. He jammed her frequency. Cliffhanger. By the time reinforcements arrived, the ridge was empty. No footprints. No trace. Just the echo of her racing pulse. But when she returned to her bunk, she found something waiting on her cot. A single bullet. Etched along the casing in tiny neat letters. For Jenna. Her hands trembled as she held it. Javed wasn't just in her head. He was inside their walls. And she knew with terrifying certainty that the next time he came, it wouldn't just be a message. It would be the kill shot. The bullet sat heavy in her palm. Etched into the brass casing, neat as if carved with a jeweler's tool. For Jenna. Cole turned it over again and again under the pale light of her bunk. Her gut twisted. This wasn't a message left on a truck or a taunt over a radio. This was intimate. Personal. It meant Javed had breached their security again. Maybe even walked through the camp while they slept. She wanted to tell Maddox. Every instinct screamed to tell him. But part of her hesitated. The more she became Javed's obsession, the more Maddox looked at her like a liability. And if she told him Javed had left a bullet on her cot? He'd lock her down for good. Cole slipped the casing into her vest pocket, next to the burned scrap of his last message. Her hand lingered there. Heavy metal. Heavy truth. Javed wasn't bluffing anymore. Dawn. The outpost woke restless. A sandstorm had rolled in overnight, orange haze choking the horizon. Men cursed as grit stung their eyes, visibility dropping to barely 30 meters. The storm muted sound, muffling even shouted orders. Bad weather meant bad vibes. Perfect cover for an attack. Cole sipped bitter coffee in the mess tent, eyes drifting to Maddox. He ate in silence, methodical as always, but his gaze swept the room like a hawk's. The storm had him on edge too. Torres dropped onto the bench beside her, legs still. Bandaged. Hell of a day for an ambush, huh? Cole smirked weakly. Don't jinx it. He leaned closer. You ever think Javed's not just after you? That maybe he's testing Maddox too? She frowned. What do you mean? Torres shrugged. Maddox hates losing control. Javed's turning you into a wild card. That drives him nuts. Maybe that's the play, break the lieutenant through you. Cole didn't answer. But the thought stuck like grit in her teeth. The first strike. It happened mid-morning. A boom rattled the mess tent, dust raining from the ceiling. Then another, closer. Mortar fire. Contact, someone screamed. Cole and Torres bolted outside into the sandstorm. Visibility was a blur, but the thump-thump of incoming rounds was unmistakable. Explosions churned up sand and steel, men diving for cover. Maddox was already in the courtyard, radio pressed to his ear, voice sharp and steady despite the chaos. Counter battery. Get me eyes in the sky now. Cole ducked behind a barrier, rifle ready. The storm swallowed the world, but through the haze she caught silhouettes moving along the perimeter fence. Too many. Reach, she shouted. They're inside. Gunfire ripped through the storm. Battle in the storm. The outpost dissolved into chaos. Figures emerged from the orange haze, firing blind, muzzle flashes lighting the storm. Cole squeezed off bursts, dropping one then another. Sand whipped her face, grit clogging her mouth. She heard Torres cursing nearby, his crutch abandoned, firing from a prone position. Maddox moved like fire, shouting orders, rallying men, his rifle barking with precision. But the storm turned everything into confusion, friend and foe shapes blurring together. Then Cole heard it. A voice through the storm. Come. Clear. Jenna. Her chest clenched. She spun, scope sweeping the haze. A figure stood just beyond the fence, motionless. Javid. The storm swirled around him, cloak whipping. He didn't fire. He just watched. And smiled. The chase. Cole's blood boiled. She vaulted the barrier before thought caught up, boots pounding sand. Maddox's shout chased her. Cole, hold position. But it was swallowed by the storm. She ran, rifle tight, eyes locked on the silhouette ahead. Javid moved with eerie calm, drifting through the haze, always just out of reach. She pushed harder, lungs burning, vision blurred with grit. The storm howled, muffling gunfire behind her. Then suddenly, silence. The storm thinned for a heartbeat, revealing a small clearing at the edge of the ridge. Javid stood there, unarmed, waiting. Why me? Cole shouted over the wind. He tilted his head. Because you run. Always. Her rifle shook in her hands. This ends now. He smiled wider. Yes, but not here. Then he stepped backward, and vanished into the storm. A split second later, the ground beneath her feet exploded. The trap. She hit the dirt hard, ears ringing, sand showering down. A crude mind barely missing her. Her head swam as she crawled backward, coughing grit. Voices cut through the storm. Seals. Maddox's men. Maddox himself grabbing her arm, dragging her up. You trying to get yourself killed? He roared, face half hidden by his sand-caked helmet. I saw him, he was right there. Save it. Back to the line. They stumbled through the storm, bullets slicing past. Cole fired blindly, adrenaline drowning thought. By the time they reached the courtyard, the breach was sealed. Enemy fighters lay scattered, retreating into the haze. The storm swallowed them whole. Aftermath. Hours later, the outpost smoldered. Fires doused, wounded tended, bodies counted. 3 men dead. 5 injured. Cole sat on an ammo crate, helmet in her lap, hands shaking. Maddox loomed over her, expression unreadable. You broke formation again, he said quietly. She lifted her head, eyes blazing. I saw him. Maddox, I saw him. His jaw clenched. You saw what he wanted you to see. He's dangling you like bait and you're biting every time. Her throat tightened. You think I'm imagining it? I think you're letting him dictate the fight. And if you don't lock it down, he's going to win. The words cut deeper than shrapnel. Because she wasn't sure he was wrong. The reveal. That night, the analyst found something in the recovered hard drives from the bunker. He rushed into Maddox's office, breathless. I decrypted part of his logs. Javid's not working alone. He's coordinating with a local cell, and he has a timetable. Big strike. Soon. Maddox leaned forward. Where? The analyst hesitated. Not here. Not Ghazni. Kabul. The room went cold. Kabul meant civilian targets. Crowds. Maximum damage. Cole stepped closer. When? The analyst shook his head. No date. But soon. Maybe days. Maddox cursed under his breath, then turned to Cole. His eyes were ice. You wanted a chance to prove yourself? Congratulations. You're coming with me to stop him. Her heart pounded. You trust me to do that? No, Maddox said flatly. But you're the only one he keeps showing up for. That makes you the bait. The humor that keeps them sane. Later, Cole sat with Torres relaying Maddox's plan. Torres whistled low. So you're the cheese on the mousetrap now, huh? Cole cracked a humorless smile. Guess so. He smirked. Don't get eaten. I still owe you that beer. Despite herself, she laughed. Felt good. Fleeting but good. The road to Kabul. 2 days later they were on the move. Convoy through the desert, armored Humvees kicking up dust. Maddox sat beside her in the rear, eyes scanning, silence heavy. Cole clutched her rifle, nerves buzzing. The city loomed ahead, sprawling, chaotic. The perfect place for Javid to disappear, or to strike. She slipped a hand into her vest pocket, fingers brushing the bullet casing. Cold metal against her skin. For Jenna. Her stomach nodded. If Javid had his way, that bullet would find her soon. Cliffhanger. The convoy rolled into Kabul at dusk, lights flickering on as the city roared alive. Vendors, children, traffic, chaotic energy in every direction. Cole's eyes scanned the crowd. Faces blurred, shadows moved. Every window a threat. Every rooftop a rifle. Then across the street she froze. Javed stood among the civilians, calm, unarmed, smiling. He raised his hand, not in surrender, not in threat. Just in greeting. And then he melted into the crowd. Eyes on. Cole shouted, heart slamming. But by the time Maddox turned, he was gone. Only the crowd remained. And somewhere in that crowd, the strike was already in motion. The crowd churned around them like a living tide. Vendors shouting, scooters buzzing, children darting between stalls. Dust and diesel thick in the air. Cole's pulse thundered as she shoved through the masses, eyes locked on where she'd seen him. Javed, standing calm, smiling, then vanishing into the sea of faces. Eyes on, she barked into comms. Target moving east. Static. She froze. Not again. Maddox, do you copy? Only the hiss of dead air answered. Her stomach dropped. Javed wasn't just toying with her vision now, he was jamming their entire net. The spark. The blast ripped through the market. A fireball swallowed a fruit cart, the shockwave throwing bodies like rag dolls. Screams tore through the chaos. Smoke billowed, acrid and choking. Cole staggered to her feet, ears ringing. Her rifle was already up, adrenaline blazing. Maddox's voice finally cut through, faint and distorted. Cole, report. I'm up, she shouted, coughing. Market just went hot. Mass casualties. Another explosion. Closer this time. The city erupted in fire. Fire in the streets. Within seconds, panic turned the market into a stampede. Civilians shoved, tripped, trampled each other in blind terror. Cole shoved her way forward, trying to clear a path. Figures in the smoke moved with purpose. Too calm for civilians. Rifles came up. Contact, she screamed. Gunfire ripped the crowd apart. Cole dropped behind a stone stall, returning fire. She saw one fighter go down, then another, but more surged through the smoke. Javed hadn't set off bombs just to kill civilians. He'd turned the chaos into cover for an assault team. Maddox, I need a rally point. North Street. Push them there. Cole moved, weaving through screaming civilians, rifle barking. Every step was hell. A woman clutched her burned child, begging for help. A man staggered past, bleeding from his eyes. She forced herself forward. Duty first. Mission first. But the screams followed her. Maddox's stand. She burst onto the North Street, finding Maddox and two SEALs pinned behind a burned-out car. Bullets chewed concrete around them. Glad you could make it, Maddox grunted, firing tight, controlled bursts. Where's the rest? Cole shouted. Cut off. We're it. Cole dropped beside him, returning fire. Enemy fighters poured from alleys, disciplined, coordinated. This wasn't a random cell. This was Javed's A-team. Hold the line. Maddox barked. Cole's magazine ran dry. She slapped in a fresh one, teeth grit. The firefight raged, smoke and blood and thunder. Then she heard it again. Jenna. The voice slid through the chaos, calm as ever. Her head snapped up. Through the smoke across the street stood Javed. Unarmed. Untouched. Watching. And smiling. The decision. Her body moved before thought. She vaulted the car, sprinting across open ground. Bullets whipped past, Maddox's shout chasing her. Cole, no. But she didn't stop. Javed waited until she was 10 feet away. Then he slipped into a narrow alley. She plunged after him. The alley twisted, tight walls closing in. Her boots pounded stone, rifle up, heart slamming. Stop, she shouted. His laugh echoed back. You always run. Cat and mouse. The alley spilled into a courtyard. Empty. Silent except for the distant firefight. Cole spun, scanning corners, rifle steady. Sweat stung her eyes. A whisper slid behind her ear. Too slow. She whirled. Nothing. Then pain exploded at the back of her skull. She staggered, vision blurring, rifle slipping. A shadow moved. Hands grabbed her vest, slammed her against the wall. Her vision cleared just enough to see his face. Javed. Up close he was younger than she expected. Clean features, sharp eyes. Almost ordinary. Except for the calm. The terrible calm. You should have stayed with your lieutenant, he said softly. She snarled, spitting blood. Go to hell. He tilted his head, studying her like a specimen. Why do you fight so hard? This war isn't yours. These people aren't yours. Yet you bleed for them. Why? Because someone has to. He smiled faintly. Wrong answer. He raised the knife. The struggle. She twisted, slamming her elbow into his ribs. He grunted, staggered back just enough for her to wrench free. The knife flashed, slicing her shoulder. Pain flared hot, but she ignored it. She swung her rifle like a bat, smashing it into his jaw. He reeled, spit blood, then laughed. "You do have teeth," he said. They circled, predator and prey, though Cole couldn't tell who was which anymore. "You think killing me will end this?" Javed said. "There will always be another. Another war. Another Jenna Cole to chase." Her grip tightened. "Then I'll keep chasing back." She lunged. The near kill. Her rifle but connected with his temple. He crashed to the ground, knife skittering. She dropped on top of him, muzzle pressing to his forehead. Her finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze. One pull. And it would all be over. But his eyes. They weren't afraid. They were amused. "Do it," he whispered. The moment stretched, infinite. Then Maddox's voice thundered from the alley. "Cole! Stand down." She froze. Javed's smile widened. In that heartbeat of hesitation, he slammed his knee into her gut, rolled, and vanished into the smoke. By the time Maddox reached her, rifle raised, Javed was gone. Again. Aftermath in ashes. The battle raged for another hour before the Afghan security forces arrived in force, sweeping the streets. Javed's fighters melted away into the city, leaving bodies and rubble behind. The death toll was staggering. Civilians. Soldiers. Children. Cole sat on the curb, blood soaking her sleeve, head pounding. The bullet casing still sat heavy in her pocket. Maddox loomed over her, face carved from stone. "You had him," he said quietly. Her throat tightened. "I know. You should have pulled the trigger." Her hand shook. You hesitated. And now more people are dead." The words cut deeper than the knife wound. Because he was right. She had hesitated. And Javed had slipped away. Bitter humor. Later, Torres found her sitting in the wreckage of a cafe, staring at the street. "Heard you went alley running with our favorite ghost," he said. Cole didn't answer. He lowered himself beside her, wincing at his leg. "You know, if you're gonna chase him solo, at least bring a leash next time. Or a GPS tracker. Save us all the headache." A weak laugh escaped her throat, surprising her. "Yeah. I'll add it to the kit." Torres nudged her shoulder. "Don't let Maddox eat you alive. He's just pissed he didn't get the shot himself." But Cole didn't feel comforted. Because deep down she knew Maddox was pissed for another reason. He was starting to think she couldn't finish this. And maybe he was right. The revelation. That night, the intel team cracked another piece of Javed's network. A laptop recovered from one of the dead fighters. Encrypted files. Plans. Maps. And one video file. Cole, Maddox, and Torres crowded around as the analyst pulled it up. The screen flickered to life. Javed sat at a table, calm, composed, looking straight into the camera. "Hello, Jenna." Cole's blood iced. "You chase me. You fight me. But you don't understand me. Not yet. So I will help you." He leaned closer. "My war isn't against your flag. It isn't against your lieutenant. It's against you. Because you remind me of someone I buried long ago. And until you understand why, this will never end." The screen went black. Cole sat frozen, heart hammering. Maddox muttered a curse. "He's playing you like a fiddle." But Cole barely heard. Because Javed had just revealed something she hadn't expected. This wasn't just a war. It was personal. For him too. Cliffhanger. Cole lay awake that night, bandage itching, the city outside restless and loud. She turned the bullet casing over in her hand, reading the words etched into brass. For Jenna. Now she knew. The bullet wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. And the next time Javed stepped out of the shadows, it wouldn't be to taunt her. It would be to finish what he started. The bullet casing spun between Cole's fingers, catching moonlight like a coin. For Jenna. She hadn't slept. The city murmured outside, restless, broken from the attack. Every creak of the barracks, every hiss of the wind made her tense. Somewhere in Kabul's sprawl, Karim Javed was planning his final move. And she knew with marrow-deep certainty, it would come soon. Because he had promised her. And Javed always kept his promises. The warning. At dawn, the analyst stormed into command, face pale. "We cracked more of the laptop." Maddox looked up from the map he'd been brooding over all night. "Talk." The analyst swallowed. "We've got chatter about a strike. Bigger than the market. Coordinated. He's planning to hit 3 targets at once." "Where?" Maddox barked. "Kabul International. Parliament. And the hospital." The room went dead quiet. Cole's stomach clenched. Airports. Politicians. Civilians. It wasn't war. It was slaughter. When? Maddox demanded. The analyst's voice cracked. Today. Within hours. Divide and conquer. Maddox slammed his fist on the table. He wants to stretch us thin. We can't cover 3 sites with what we've got. Torres muttered, guys playing chess and we're the pawns. Cole stared at the map, mind racing. No. He wants me there. One of them. That's where he'll be. Maddox glared. You don't know that. Yes, I do, Cole shot back. He's obsessed. He won't hide behind foot soldiers this time. He'll want me to see him. To face him. Maddox's jaw flexed. Even if you're right, we can't gamble. We split. 1 team to the airport, 1 to Parliament, 1 to the hospital. We move now. Cole met his eyes. Then put me where you think he'll be. A long silence stretched. Finally, Maddox exhaled. Parliament. That's where I'd stage the finale if I were him. Cole nodded. Then that's where I'll be. Kabul Parliament. The convoy roared through clogged streets, horns blaring, civilians scattering. Parliament loomed ahead, massive stone, guarded but tense, banners snapping in hot wind. Cole checked her rifle for the 5th time, hands steady despite the storm inside her. Maddox sat across from her, helmet shadowing his eyes. You pull the trigger this time, he said flatly. She swallowed. I know. No hesitation. I said I know. Their eyes locked. A silent pact. This time there would be no second chances. The siege begins. They reached Parliament's gates just as the first truck exploded. The blast ripped the checkpoint apart, bodies flung like rag dolls. Gunfire followed, hammering from rooftops and alleys. Fighters swarmed, disciplined and relentless. Contact front. Maddox bellowed. The SEALs dismounted, returning fire. Civilians screamed, scattering. Smoke cloaked the courtyard. Cole moved with lethal focus, dropping 1 attacker then another. But for every fighter that fell, 2 more pushed forward. Javed wasn't trying to sneak in this time. He was waging open war. And somewhere in the chaos, he was waiting for her. The shadow appears. Cole reloaded, pressed against a pillar. Her ears rang, her shoulder ached, but adrenaline burned it all away. Then she felt it. That prickled down her spine. She turned. Across the courtyard, through smoke and fire, Javed stood. Calm. Cloaked. Smiling. And this time he wasn't alone. 2 children stood in front of him, small hands bound, eyes wide with terror. Her blood turned to ice. The impossible choice. He raised a hand in mock greeting. Then he placed a pistol gently against one child's temple. Cole froze. Maddox's voice cut through her earpiece. Cole, take the shot. Her finger trembled on the trigger. But Javed shifted, using the child's body as a shield. His smile never wavered. Shoot me, he mouthed. Her heart pounded. If she pulled now, she risked killing the hostage. If she hesitated, Javed would pull the trigger himself. Either way, the child died. Her throat locked. Maddox shouted again. Cole. Do it. The gamble. She exhaled slow. Her mind raced. A frontal shot was impossible. But the angle, yes. She shifted, slid left, sighting not on his head but his hand. 1 breath. 1 squeeze. The rifle cracked. The bullet shattered his pistol. The weapon clattered to the stones. The children screamed, bolting. Javed's smile vanished. For the first time, his eyes flared with surprise. Cole stood, rifle locked on him. It ends now. The final duel. The courtyard faded. The battle, the screams, the gunfire, all background noise. There was only Cole and Javed. He drew a blade, motion smooth, eyes burning. Good, he said. No more games. They clashed. Steel met steel, rifle but smashing against knife. He slashed, she dodged, pain flaring as the blade nicked her vest. She swung hard, knocking him back, but he came again, relentless, laughing through the blood on his teeth. You're mine, Jenna, he roared. Not today, she snarled. With a final surge, she rammed her knife under his ribs. His eyes widened. The laugh choked into silence. He staggered, dropped the blade, blood spreading dark. And yet he smiled. You still hesitate, he whispered. Next time. I win. Then he collapsed. The aftermath. The battle dwindled as Afghan forces surged in, sweeping the streets. The siege broke. Cole sat slumped against the Parliament steps, blood soaking her sleeve, chest heaving. Maddox crouched beside her, checking her wound, but his eyes never left hers. You did it, he said quietly. She shook her head. He let me. Maddox frowned. He's dead, Cole. But in her pocket, the bullet casing burned cold. For Jenna. She couldn't shake the image of his eyes, smiling even as he bled. The words he'd whispered. Next time. Bittersweet humor. Later, Torres limped over, grinning despite the ash and blood on his face. So, what did I miss? You finally get him, or you two just make out in an alley again? Cole laughed, a raw, broken sound. I got him. Torres raised a brow. Got him or got him? Her smile faded. I don't know. The mystery. That night, Maddox debriefed higher command. Target neutralized. Cell dismantled. Cobble stabilized. Cole sat in the shadows, silent. Neutralized. Stabilized. Words on paper. But she remembered the weight of his stare, the curve of his smile, the promise in his last breath. And when she finally pulled the bullet from her pocket, her heart nearly stopped. The etching had changed. Not for Jenna. But not yet. Her hands trembled. Javed was gone. But the war between them wasn't over. Not yet. The end.